Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie with a Y.
And I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And it's spooky season, it's our favorite season. Well, at least it's mine. I don't know if it's yours, but it's one of our
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
seasons. But yeah, spooky season has arrived, so we've decided to do some spooky movies we have not covered yet, which I'll tell you.
We haven't run out yet because
Well,
I really
right.
get like very anxious on
Yes.
September 30th every
Yeah.
year. And I'm like,
She does.
oh my God, I feel like we've done all of the
all the
spooky
movies,
movies and try to dig out some new
Right.
ones.
I mean, definitely we have a
very difficult.
whole bunch of Disney original movies that we have
That's
not
true.
covered yet. So I feel happy that we have those waiting for us should we ever need them.
Yeah. I mean, we got a good agenda this year. I shared it on Instagram. I won't repeat it because all of you should be following the Instagram account.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got some goodies. So hopefully we can keep on track and get these done. There's 3 weeks till Halloween. But because Halloween's on a Tuesday, maybe we can like sneak one more in there. But yeah, love a good spook movie. And yeah, this year we're... I won't even go into it. Let's go into the one you picked today.
Yeah. Okay. So today I picked the classic Disney OG original movie that is called Halloweentown, which is
From 1998.
98. So really surprising. I mean, obviously it feels 90s, but I always thought it was in the 2000s, this movie.
Here's why I know it was in the late 90s, because I never saw it. I had this discussion with my husband, and it really pains me to say this, but once I got into high school, like basically the Disney Channel did not exist for me, and I didn't
Right.
watch anything on it. So
Right, you missed.
I only know it through you because you were still in like late elementary school, early middle school, or whatever. And you were still the target audience, especially for a movie like this where the girl's like 13,
Right.
because you would have been like 11 or something.
Yeah.
So I just like got it through you, all like those other Disney original movies that you like loved, you know.
Still love.
I only got it through you. Yeah. So I like really feel bad. And I think that happens to a lot of kids. You just kind of, it's not that you grow out of the Disney Channel, but it just seems suddenly like, oh, that's like uncool. I'm not going to watch the Disney Channel in high school, you know?
For sure.
So
For sure. It's too
Yeah.
bad. You missed a lot of good content. But yeah, Halloweentown, obviously, you know, no one's winning any Oscars with this movie. It's not good per se, but there's something about it that just kind of always makes me feel a little cozy inside. I'm sure it's just the overall 90s nostalgia that it
Yeah.
brings.
you're definitely not alone. I mean, I've heard from a ton of people messaging and saying, oh my God, I love this movie and stuff like that. So it just
look
like
at
hit the spot for your age group
Yeah.
in terms
And it's
of
like not even that
Halloween.
exciting. And Sweetie and I
Yeah.
were talking about it a little bit.
The plot is terrible.
Over text, that it just does. A lot of it doesn't make sense. Like the idea of this Halloweentown. I mean, we'll talk about it, but like there's a lot of like gray area of like why. Oh, hi Moosh. There's a lot of gray area of like there's just like. Well, we'll talk about it. I'll save it. So anyways, silly movie, but obviously very important in Disney's canon of original movies. This was definitely not the first one, I don't think, but it was definitely earlier in the series of these movies. And they would play this so much. And there's sequels of this too. So I've seen the second one.
1, 2, 3 sequels spanning from 2001 to 2006.
Okay.
So you got
Yeah.
Halloweentown 2.
Sure.
You got Halloweentown High.
Okay.
You got it Return to H-Town.
So that's 4 then. Well, 4 total movies.
4
including the
total,
original.
3 sequels. Yeah,
Yeah, so they really pumped those out, and like the main girl in this was definitely a Disney darling for a bit. She was also in the Disney original movie Quince. I kind of hated her when I was little.
She's kind of a slightly irritating
didn't
actress,
mind-
but
yeah.
I like appreciated her like gumption and like spirit. I don't know. She just was like pretty feisty.
Yeah,
like
I liked her much better as an adult. I will say, but like for whatever reason, when I was little, I was always like, Marnie or whatever. But I think it was the Quince movie that I hated her the most in, or something, or like
What's the Quince movie? Is it about
her parents? Her parents have another baby, and like, oops, they have 5 babies, you know, or something like that, and she has to like help take care of them. I honestly don't know, but she was like huge in Disney, and then I have no idea. I lost track of her. Don't know what happened to her. Hope she's okay. But yeah, she's an important part of this movie, as is, of course, Debbie Reynolds. So
what a gem, huh?
Okay, so this is my this is a pretty good sweetie confusion, if I do say so myself. So I do remember you not watching this, but I remember you being like, "Oh my God, Debbie Reynolds is in that," and you were like so enthralled by that. And I, like as a child, did not know who Debbie, even though Singing in the Rain was one of my like favorite movies as a kid. But as a kid, you're not really like you're not really attaching like names to people other than like Gene Kelly. Obviously, I did a report on him in 7th grade, so obviously knew who he was. But yeah, Debbie Reynolds, like I wasn't sure. So Sweetie would be obsessed with that. You were obsessed with Debbie Reynolds being in this movie. Were you obsessed with her? Is that just like the old Hollywood thing?
I mean, I think the old Hollywood thing. I knew her from Singing in the Rain. Funny enough, I read in the trivia that she would introduce herself when she was doing this movie, because all the kids were like your age or around your age, as Princess Leia's mother. So she knew that she was like not really known to the Disney target audience for this movie, for sure. But I'm sure like any parents watching this with their kids would be like, "Oh my God, it's Debbie Reynolds." She's such a button. I just love her. I mean, I love my grandma, but oh my God, I wish Debbie Reynolds
so
was
cute.
my grandma.
Yeah. So my Sweetie confusion was that. So Sweetie, again, would always be like, "Oh my God, Debbie Reynolds. And like, I didn't, again, draw the connection. I thought that Debbie Reynolds was the mom in Halloweentown. And I thought it was Debbie Gibson. And I was like, oh, yeah, she does. I can't believe, she's grown up. Like, I didn't even recognize her, that Debbie Gibson.
Wow, did she get old?
And no, I thought the mom was Debbie Gibson, not the grandmother.
Debbie Gibson is not even that old, I don't think, right now. The grandma's age, right?
No, not the grandma's age. Not the grandma. The mom.
The mom was Debbie Gibson. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's
That
where my confusion was, because she doesn't like not look like Debbie Gibson. Yeah. So it like, as in my child brain, the whole time, like forever, I thought that Debbie Gibson / was Debbie Reynolds. I don't know. Very confusing, but eventually corrected it. And yeah, Debbie Reynolds, super cute.
Super cute. I will say that the mom actress,
she's in something.
Actress's name, Judith Hoag. She was April in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the '90s version.
Oh wow, yeah.
And she has been in a lot of big shows and like, yes, and she's like still legit acting. So she's been like in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I like
and
her.
then and nobody really else.
No one else.
The guy who is the mayor / villain looked very familiar to me, and I looked him up, and he is in like every TV show, like from the 80s to like the present.
Yeah.
So
pretty sure he was in a 90210 episode.
Yeah, he's just like the face of like a character actor's one-off. He had some roles, but he was a little bit longer. And then the other kids didn't really go anywhere. The little boy's name is Joey Zimmerman. I guess he's the only one who's in all of the movies.
Wow.
And maybe Debbie Reynolds too. But not everyone else returned for like each and every one.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I didn't see. But it just seems like a little bit like B-list actors in this, other than Debbie Reynolds. But maybe she wasn't really working at the time, so could have been considered somewhat B-list. And then like the whole production value felt very B-list to me, as well as the costumes. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
It's a
the
TV
costumes
movie.
Looked very homemade to me.
They were. Somebody was sewing them, and then they put them on people. Like,
no, I know, but not that like Hollywood level. But I do like
Hollywood.
Appreciate it. Yeah. It's just that like next tier of movies, right? Like any made-for-TV movie has that like next tier to it that feels like a little unpolished, like a little bit like The director was Dwayne Dunham, who I only wrote that down because I was impressed by his directing credentials, which include Little Giants, great
Amazing.
movie. Homeward Bound,
Wow.
great movie. I know. And he did Double Teamed, Disney original movie about the basketball players.
Another
and then I guess
favorite.
there was another twin kind of one about volleyball players or something that's called like something else. I didn't even write it down because I was
Double
like, okay,
Spike?
this is enough.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was funny that he was into like the twins do sports movies that the Disney Channel like trotted out for
Always a hit. Yeah.
whatever around the same time, I think. So yeah, so that's interesting to me.
All right. Well, I say we jump right in to our
Okay.
first spooky movie. Let's do it.
It's time for the sweetie synopsis.
Yeah, sweeties.
I should have wrote down some of the comebacks Marty had because she had some like pretty good
Becky
ones.
Ma. Becky Vicky. Vicky Veru. Blah, 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 blah.
Or
I have a
or the magic
whole
spell.
section on spells. Do we need them to be covered later? Okay. Marnie Cromwell is a third. Actually, is her last name Cromwell? Because that was the mom's last name, and the dad. She married a regular Joe guy, not a witch. So maybe that's not her last name, but whatever. Cromwell. We're using it. She's a 13-year-old girl who likes quote unquote weird things, which I would classify as like spook. I think maybe they were trying to be like kind to. I don't know, but like she kept classifying things as weird, and I was like, I don't know if that's really weird. It's just like cool. She likes like ghosts and witches and skeletons, like spooky stuff. She likes spooky stuff. But strangely, her mom is very anti-Halloween and does not let her and her brother and sister go trick-or-treating, does not let her go to a Halloween party, does not
My
let
first
her
thought was
do anything.
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's
right?
Witness,
I'm like,
probably.
Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. No holidays for you. Sorry. But it's really
I mean,
just
what
this
mom,
holiday.
like what parent doesn't?
Right.
Unless
And
you're,
she
like,
doesn't-
super religious.
Yeah. And
like,
she's not
do
giving
Halloween shit.
a ton of information, at least to us, the viewers, as to like why. We just gather that like this is something she doesn't even want them like near or whatever. So along with Marnie, we have her younger sister Sophie and then her younger brother Dylan. And Sophie has powers. So she is little enough that like her emotions, like she really wanted a cookie. Her mom was like, no. And Sophie was like, I really want that cookie. Rah! And then the cookie was like levitating behind her. She didn't notice. But so you're like, oh, okay, something interesting is going on in her. So Halloween night, Sophie, again, ESP. She's like, someone's coming. It's the grandmother, Aggie Cromwell, who they see very rarely and usually on Halloween, I gather. Although they were very surprised. I don't know if it is always on Halloween, but I'm pretty sure that
that's the
only
only time
time.
the portals. Open.
I know, but then why didn't she come last year? They're like, we haven't seen her in over a year. So if
Sounds
she
like the
come,
mom and
right, they had a falling out.
grandmother had a falling out.
Yeah. So she brings all these like fun things. She has a Mary Poppins bag of like infinite space. And like brings costumes. They do like decorating and like kind of cute things, but still like very light. They're not like able to go out or anything like that. So eventually they go to bed and Aggie tells them a story, and she tells them a story about a place called Halloweentown. And the brother is like super like on the mom's side about Halloween. He's very like, yeah, the whole razor blades and apples thing. I get it. Totally sketchy. Like, good thing we're not going out there. And so he's definitely like a rule follower. So once Aggie pulls out the like book of Halloweentown, he's like, oh, okay, it's just a story. Great. So the story is about this place that, it's Halloween year round, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And they're excited about it, but they're like, that's cool. All right, bye, good night. And they go to bed. And then Marnie hears, some argumenting, and her grandmother and her mom are fighting in the kitchen about Marnie's training. And she's like, ooh, what's this? So like, they're fighting like pretty loud. If this was such a big deal to the mom, like, wouldn't she be like, let's put a quiet spell on the house or something so that like they don't overhear this? Because like they were really letting loose with the information here. So we find out that Gwen, the mom, is a witch. She grew up in Halloweentown with her mom, Agatha. She met a boy out when she crossed over to do shenanigans on Halloween night, in the mortal world. Fell in love. She got married, decided to stay in the mortal world and raise this family and never go back to Halloweentown. And that's why she, refuses to acknowledge the existence of Halloween, of witches, of anything spooky and weird. And you find out that Marnie is a witch, and that for witches, they end their training when they're 13. It's like when they complete it. And Marnie is just 13, so she's like, yo, what? I'm missing out on all this training because my mom, and like, apparently if you don't like foster and like grow the ability, once you are done with being 13, it's just done. You're over. It's done. You're not a witch.
Yeah. Let me know, like, okay, between this and Teen Witch, like, which is it? Are you 13 and you got witch powers, or are you 16 and you got witch
different.
powers?
It's different depending on the universe.
Well, like, what makes
guess.
sense to you? Like, because 16 is sort of that debutante age, so I think that's why, like, that's been used. But then if you're talking about becoming a woman,
puberty,
that's probably closer to like 13.
Right.
So
but then
that
Sophie, and like Sophie has like seems to have very strong powers, and she's quite little, so I don't really know. Honestly, like, was not convinced Marnie had any powers at all because Sophie was really like doing the legwork of most things.
Remember the mom said it's like, or the grandma said the magic is just about when you think it.
When you
really
want
it to
something,
happen. Yeah. Which
let
for
yourself
a
happen.
little girl, like, that's, you're just wanting stuff all the time and
Right.
you can't get it. Just like the cookie thing or the
Exactly.
frog and the turns into a lock. Well, she just like, I really wanted that like fake frog to become a real frog, like very like simple childlike. So that stuff is going to come out. But I mean, that's probably the thing also too, that like once you get older, you're not as like free flowing with your ideas and you're a little slightly more closed minded, which is probably also why the little brother like wasn't showing any powers because was always like kind of
shut it down. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So you find out that Agatha is her real reason for her visit is that she's worried about home or Halloweentown because people are changing. They seem fine one day and then turn like really angry and scary the next, and then they just disappear and she never sees them again. So she thinks something bad is happening and she needs Gwen's help because the more witches you have, the more like power there is. Keeping in mind that there seem to be like a lot of witches in Halloweentown, so I don't understand why she can't rally all the witches, but what do I know? So Marnie hears all this and is like very intrigued, and so she's like excited about being a witch, wants to help her grandmother, wants to know like what the fuck is going on. So she sneaks out after her grandmother leaves, and her brother Dylan follows her after she had told him what she overheard in the kitchen. He was like, I think this is all just a misunderstanding. So they follow the grandma outside. She's waiting at this weird bus stop they've never seen before. They're like, where'd that bus come from? Or the bus stop. And then this bus just appears and Aggie gets on. So Marnie and Dylan sneak on. And now they're riding this bus. And they're like, whoa, this is weird. And like all these people are wearing these like weird costumes. These like giant mask costumes, I would say. Like they just have like giant heads of like, you know, things. There's like a I forget the ones that were on the bus, but like
a monster Frankenstein.
Yeah, like
guy,
a Frankenstein,
like a
monster,
lizard.
Some sassy witches, like good stuff. And so they're just riding along, and then they like hit this like turbulence, and all these lights are flashing. And they're like, "Whoa, what's happening here?" And they end up in Halloweentown. So they get off the bus, and they're like, "What the fuck? Like, it's real. This place is real." Meanwhile, little Sophie has somehow snuck on the bus, and like this. Just straight up doesn't make sense because the time that Marnie and Dylan got on the bus was like very right before they closed the doors and flew away. So like how on earth could Sophie have been right behind them and then snuck into the door right after? It doesn't make sense.
Here's my other question. So, you know, on buses, that back door, school bus style, remember when you did your bus drills? Oh, we got to get off the bus, and you had those whole drills about sitting and pushing yourself off the seat, whatever. This bus is obviously not that big, but I'm pretty sure you can't open that back door from the outside.
I think you
it's
can.
like an indoor.
No, you can.
Push,
it's like,
isn't it?
Those buses, like always, you could always open them from, because when you park them, I don't know, I just feel like there was always a way. You just like push them in. They didn't have locks on them.
Who's a bus driver? Who's going to let us know?
Luke's the bus driver at the end. So they, you know, they're like, what do we do? What do we do? They find, they run into Calabar, the mayor first, I think. Mm-hmm. And he's like, wow, what are you kids doing here? And they're like, we're here with our grandmother, Aggie Cromwell. He's like, oh my God, Aggie Cromwell, like she's famous witch. Like, yes, we can take you right up there now. So it gets this like skeleton taxi driver man to Benny to drive him up to the house. So they learn a little bit about Halloweentown, like through that ride. They look at people. They see this kid, Luke, who looks like bad news. And Benny's like, yeah, I forget what he says. He's like, he's a troublemaker. Like, he's a bad kid. Stay away from him. So they get to Aggie's, and she's like so excited but surprised to see them, and is like, what are you doing here? Oh my God. So she, starts filling them in on the plan, basically, like shows them around Halloweentown. Or does she show them around Halloweentown, or does she do the talisman thing first?
Yeah, she shows them the whole. She's making her like instant witch's
Right.
brew, and
So-
she shows them like that
Yeah.
whole thing.
She's using instant witch's brew to do this important talisman spell, and it doesn't work. And she's like, that's what I get for using instant, so we'll just have to do it from scratch. So, shows them the recipe and is like, we can get all these things in town. So brings them to town to like show them around. And this is where you get to see like all the fun stuff. So you see all these like weird people in costumes. So this is where it's confusing. So Halloweentown allegedly is a town. So it's very similar to like Harry Potter and like the wizards and witches there, right? Where like at one point we were all living together, the mortals and the witches. The mortals got too freaked out by the witches and were like, let's burn you at the stake or hang you. And the witches were like, shit, we got to get out of here. So they made their own community that was like hidden from the mortals to protect them. So all of the human mortal traditions are based on the Halloweentown traditions / the people that live in Halloweentown. So this is what I don't understand, because so like examples of the creatures, mingling around Halloweentown. You have your classic, again, monsters, your ghosts, your vampires, your werewolves. Sure. Great. Yes. Then you also have a milkman, a people with pumpkin heads. You have a lady, a pincushion lady. You have, so like the milkman was probably like the biggest red flag to me, because I was like, why? Nobody is pretending to be a milkman in the mortal world. Like we have milkmen too. So like why? I don't know why that counts as like a creature or like a Halloweentown. Like what's his deal? Like
Maybe
delivering-
he's just a milk. Maybe Halloweentown needs milk too.
Maybe yes, but it's like,
works
and then there's like a
between
Marie
worlds.
Antoinette looking lady, and like just like what they're doing is like, let's do any costume. And we've talked about this before. One of our favorite things in Halloween movies is to look at like the kinds of costumes that people are throwing out there, and there's some weird ones that we've seen, right? Like just like random ass shit. Like no one ever would be dressed as a milkman for Halloween. But they must have just like needed so many extras that they were just like running out of ideas of costumes. It's weird. I don't get it. I still don't get it. But anyways, fun town. Again, they talk to Calabar. They go to the ice cream store. You gather that Calabar has some like history with the mom, Gwen. Then you find
her a broom.
out what? Oh, the broom.
get
So she,
her a broom.
yeah, she sees the brooms, which are like plastic, like regular brooms with like spray painted colors. And this, I always love the broom salesman is like my favorite character.
Was he supposed to be an Elvis?
Yeah, he was like a
impersonator?
zombie Elvis or something.
Why is he selling the brooms?
Again,
like, what is that connection?
I don't know. That's his speciality. But Marty picks one. They take it for a test drive. She's so excited. She's like, I love this new life. I love being a witch. This is so much fun. I never want to go home. But who should arrive then but the mom has found out that they all snuck out and is like, shit, gotta go get my kids. So they're in big trouble. And she's like, we need to get back to the mortal world. However, the bus is broke. It's real broke. There's so many people that can use magic in Halloweentown. I'm still very unclear, like, why is the bus broken? Like, there's no one that can fix that with their magic. Come on, Aggie, let's go. So Gwen's like, I'll go see the mayor, not realizing that her old flame Calabar is the mayor now. So they go there, and he's like immediately smitten. He like pulls out a rose, and he's like, Gwen, I thought I lost you. And like, he's basically a creep.
That was really creepy, because when he was like, want to go like see our own like haunts and stop, like our old places basically we used to like make out and stuff.
No,
and, like,
with
her
my
kids
children.
are there.
Yeah.
And that's like, obviously she's not going to be like, yeah, I'm like going to totally go on a
Right.
date with you. Like, I don't have these 3 kids, one who's probably like 5 years old. Like,
Yeah, so weird.
what the
What a weirdo.
creep, red flag.
Total red flag. So then, let's see what happened. So when Aggie first got back to Halloweentown, she stumbles upon her friend Harriet, who I think is another witch, but they have this like funny interaction. And then later she sees Harriet that day, and she's all scary and like mean. And she's like, oh no, Harriet. So she's kind of like the key of like Aggie being like, oh yeah, I need to figure out what's going on here. So that punk
Wait, hold on. I
kid-
want to go back to that, because that was one of my favorite parts, because Harriet, when she meets her for the first time, is going to go volunteer at the headless shelter instead of the homeless shelter. And she makes muffins, and she's like, I don't know why why I made these muffins. Like, they don't have any heads. Oh, my God. That was so
yeah,
funny.
it was pretty funny. Good old Harriet. So she run into, bad news. Luke runs into Aggie and is like, hey, I know what you're doing. Like, you're looking into these things. Like, he wants to meet with you. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, who does? And he's like, the powerful whatever. And she's like, I'm not scared of anyone. He's like, then go see him then. And she's like, fine. So they go into the like decrepit movie theater, and Marnie sees her going off with Luke, and she's like, that's weird. So she's like, I have to go take care of Grandma. And she like runs after her, and her mom's like, Marnie, blah. So they all follow. So it's like this eerie movie theater, and I always thought this part was like probably the spookiest to me. It was just like everybody, these like people were just like sitting in the movie theater, like old, frozen with like cobwebs on them. And then the screen has like the swirl, and then this like robed figure with this like gross hamburger face like comes out and is like, kind of does look like Mr. Boogedy, but he's like, I don't know. He says a bunch of like bullshit, like, I'm taking over like the mortal world so that we can reign once again. And Aggie's like, you're crazy. Or she always does this thing where she's like, never. Like, she does this like weird like trill when she's doing never. It's so cute.
It's an old Hollywood thing.
Yeah, but she tries to stop him. Gwen and Marnie and the kids come in. Gwen like starts flexing her powers, and like you're like, yeah, go mom. And then she gets hit by the bad guy's spell, so she's like knocked out cold. And then Aggie just kind of like gives up at that point because she's like so sad that Gwen got hit. And so then Aggie and the mom are both down for the count, and Marnie's like, oh my God, what? Oh no. And Aggie's like, it'll be okay. Just, I forget what she does. And she's like pointing like out, whatever. And so Marnie and her brother and sister run away, and they're like, we have to save them now. Like, I took the recipe from Grandma's spell book. We'll get the ingredients and we'll do the talisman thing, and then we'll save them. They don't really know like how the talisman, what it does, like how they're going to use that, but they have a recipe list at least. Right. So what's on this recipe list? Do you remember what's on the recipe list?
Okay. Hair of a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Fang of a vampire.
Yep.
Sweat of a ghost,
yep.
which is the one that really doesn't make sense.
No.
And didn't make sense to the kids and doesn't make sense to anybody. But let me tell you, they find it because I guess ghosts love those sweat boxes.
So funny. Yeah, so now they have to get these things. And like, as luck would have it, these are all pictures that they like saw in that Halloweentown book in the beginning. So they're like, oh, I know a werewolf works at the hair salon and we need hair of a werewolf. Perfect. So my question was like, was he a werewolf? He seemed like a dog man. Like, I'm not convinced he was a werewolf, but whatever. They get his hair. Pretty funny scene. They next go to get the sweat of the ghost. So they go to this gym. It's pretty funny, the exercise class with like the cat lady, and she's like, "Dog, stop slobbering!" And like, yeah, there's all these people with like dog faces also as like the main character. So strange, but they find the sweat box. So my question is this a real? Was this a real thing? The sweat box you get in this box and you sweat. I guess it's not that different from like a sauna, but it seems like very contained and like. Yeah. Maybe this was an old school method of losing weight or something.
Right.
So they find this ghost, this like fat ghost is in there, and they're like distracting him, and they get his sweat, and then they turned like the sweat box all the way up. So by the time he gets out, he's like this like skinny, ripped man, like with, I just thought that was funny. So they get the sweat of the ghost, and then they go to the dentist office. Wouldn't you know it, there's a vampire getting her fang pulled. So perfect opportunity for them to get that fang. Boom, they got it. So they go back to Aggie's, make the potion, put it in the talisman. Nothing happens. And they're like, well, Grandma said some words. Like, I think you have to say words. And Marnie was like, I don't remember the words. And she's like, maybe they were like, and she like starts saying like words. And they really like, she's terrible at this. And Dylan's like, is that the best you can do? And I was like, yeah, Dylan, I agree. And then Sophie, again, MVP Sophie, out of nowhere, is just like, Bengy ma. Becky Begir. She like knows the words, and she's like, whoa, Sophie. Like, she's like, oh, I made a song out of it because it sounded cool. And so
she's the true witch in the family. I'm sorry, I think like
she
Marnie,
is.
You don't got it. You don't got it.
So she's like, oh, Sophie, Grandma always says spells are more powerful when two witches do them. So like, do you want to help me? And she's like, yeah. So they do the spell. Again, they're like sort of saying the right words, but like not. It just does not sound like the same words that the grandma was saying earlier. So this is why I'm like, are spells necessary? So then they do like the whole like, remember you like want something and let yourself have it. So they do that, and then it lights up. And so they're like, what do we do with this talisman? They're like, oh, I don't know. And they're like, oh, I know. Like we put it in the big jack-o'-lantern that's in the center of town, because that's like what mortals do with, that's where it goes. So that's the plan. However, Calabar is, you don't know that it's Calabar yet, but he reveals himself, the bad shadowy figure in the town square, as Calabar. So you pretty much deduce that like he was so pissed that Gwen picked a mortal boy like over him, that he's like been on this lifelong conquest of like taking back the mortal world. And no one seems like really on his, like nobody is like, yeah, like when he's like doing this, like no one seems to care or want what he's offering. So Luke finds Marnie and is like, it's a trap. He's going to get you. And she's like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, you're annoying. And so, but then he helps them, and he like is a distraction, pretends to be Marnie in the cloak while she goes to the pumpkin to put the thing in. And this part always bothered me so much. Marnie takes 8 years to put that, like she could have just done it if she had just done it, but she has to like wind up her arm for like 5 seconds, and which is just enough time for Calabar to hit her with one of the spell things, and like, so she's kind of like knocked. But then she like hears her grandma's voice, and she's like, I can do it, and she like lets go of the talisman, falls in the pumpkin, and boom, like this like healing light comes over, not destroys, but like wounds Calabar or whatever, and everybody's brought back to life who had been knocked out by this ghost, including Aggie and Gwen. So they come running in, and they're like, Mom, it's Calabar. And she's like, what? And then they're like, Calabar, how could you? And that's when he gets all like crazy, and he's like, I wanted you, but you picked a mortal boy. And he's like so upset. And then they join hands and like vanquish him with their witch spell, their Cromwell witch spell. They're the most powerful witches of all. And Sophie joins, and then Marnie notices Dylan's hands are like this like blue like emperor in Star Wars like Sith powers of like lightning. She's like, Dylan, looks like we're not the only witches in the family. And so you find out, oh, he's one too, of course. So with his power combined with all the families, they vanquish Calabar. And he goes to like whatever sad realm that warlocks go.
Maybe comes back for the 12 sequels.
Well, it's his son, but
it's
like
he had a son?
It's like his revenge, but he like, it's something to do with his son. He has a son somehow. I forget how. But yeah, spoiler alert. So then he's gone. Everything's good. The mom is suddenly like, oh, this is fun. Halloweentown. Like, Mom, you'll just have to come live with us, and invites her to live with her. And I'm like, does Grandma want that? Like, why don't they all live in Halloweentown? Just kidding. But that's the end. It like cute. Everything's good. Luke, unfortunately, so he made a deal with this like shadowy figure that like if he like helped him with stuff, he would fix his face, because I guess he was very ugly before. So when the talisman goes in, it rights everything, and now he's back to his old self, which unfortunately is very grotesque. I felt bad.
I thought he was cuter
as the troll thing.
Yeah,
as the big nose,
because he just like looked kinder.
Yeah,
like, he had like kind of an asshole. His real face, well, the real actor's face, kind of an asshole face.
True.
And once he had all that makeup and the big nose, he just looked like innocent and sweet.
Looked a little sweet,
so.
yeah. And they're like,
I don't know if he's getting a date, but
so the weirdest part to me was they're like, Luke, we have a job for you, and you're like, what is this job? And so I had to like rewind it because I missed it. And the job is he's now the bus driver.
Yeah,
surprise. But like, what happened to the old bus driver? Is he sad?
They never showed the old
They should. I mean, he's there. He's a person. I mean, the thing in this creature,
maybe
in this town. But
the bus wasn't working because that guy, like, they needed more bus drivers. So maybe it's like what they needed.
Maybe he was the guy in the movie theater who got accidentally thrown through the vortex.
Maybe.
And was gone forever. Maybe that's it. But yeah, that's the end. But yeah, pretty funny movie. Obviously, like the main parts that always stick out are like just the creatures and like going to the different things, and the werewolf in the salon and the ghost in the sweat. Like those are all the things that I remember most. But yeah, I don't know. That's the flick.
That's the flick. Yeah, it just felt. I told Sweetie it reminded me of like the movie The Worst Witch a little bit. Just in like the campiness and the sort of like bad plot, and maybe like not the best acting and costumes, etc. So again, just that like B-list level stuff that is good, bad. We always say a good, bad movie, right? And yeah, seems really sweet. Totally get why little kids would like love it, right up their alley, or middle school kids. And hell yeah, like I would be so pumped if I found out that like I came from a witch family.
Right.
I would just love that. okay, something that bothered me was the little girl Sophie. Where did she get that hat in the beginning?
Yeah,
It's like,
I missed that too.
it always was falling off.
And she's not even the costume she gets from the grandma in the beginning is the ghost one. So
Yeah.
it's not like
I
she
don't know
even
where
got
she
that
got
hat.
that hat. It
And
didn't fit. The actress kept fixing it the entire movie, and it was really distracting. And I'm like, okay,
Good point.
who
good
was
point.
in charge of this hat? It had like an elastic strap, but it did not fit her. Her
head
head
was
was really
small.
distracting. I'm just gonna say,
Yeah,
really
totally.
distracting.
Good call. Good call.
Yep. Yeah, worst witch level. This movie is set. It was set in St. Helens, Oregon. If you want to ever go back there, and I guess they kept that big pumpkin. They roll it out still every Halloween, and have
cute.
some of the sets and stuff like still around there. So
love that.
if you ever want to make if you're a Halloweentown super fan, you can make a little pilgrimage to St. Helens, Oregon, and get your Halloweentown on. That would be
I'd
pretty
do it.
fun. Yeah. And then lastly, I want to talk about the razor blades and apples thing, because this gets brought up in the beginning. And if you were a kid, I don't know if this is still the case in the 80s and 90s, this
No
was
one's giving
something like
apples. Yeah.
always, though, that you were talked about, like, was this Halloween urban legend, let's say, that this was like a thing, to the point that if you got like loose candy or anything like not in a package, an apple would be considered something like that, or literally anything else. Your parents would be like, throw that away because we don't know what's in there. And I just happened to do some research. I'm like, well, why does this urban legend exist? Like, why did it exist? Do they have on record of, psychos poisoning stuff and giving it out to kids? So not necessarily. This is pretty much an urban legend in the sense there hasn't been too many cases of this, as in like some person doing it to like randos. The reason they think it started was from this incident in 1974 in Texas. And the guy was called the pixie stick killer. And what he did was he laced pixie sticks with cyanide.
Whoa.
And what happened was he did it and fed it to his own kids. And what he had done was taken insurance policies out on them like months before. So he wanted to kill them to get money. Now, I guess to like make it seem like his kids weren't a target, they were just like innocently, picked up some creepo's poison sticks. He did give it to a lot of random kids, but they didn't eat them. It was only his son who ate one, and then his son did die. So he was labeled the pixie stick killer. So then and then also known as the candy man. And then this kind of got passed around, and then parents started being like, oh my God, like there's sketchy candy being passed out and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of where they think it started.
But how does that connect to the razor blades and apples?
I don't know. Yeah, just right. There's no record of that. And when I was little, the thinker that I was like, I don't understand how that would work, because in my mind I was thinking of like a razor blade from Dad's razor. Yeah, which is like a chic, all like the what is that called? Like coiled around, like
one of
the
old
blades.
school razors, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's what it was. But in my little kid mind, I was like, okay,
but
what,
either
why
way,
how would you
no way to
shove
get it
those
in there.
into an apple and you wouldn't be able to tell?
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it
And,
doesn't
like,
make sense at all.
There's a scene in Candyman, the horror movie, where like she sees all this candy like in this like old projects like abandoned apartment, and somebody had tried to put a razor blade like in a piece of candy, but it was like so obvious that there was something in there because it was just a razor, like, and same thing. Yeah, there's no way a razor blade can be in an apple. That doesn't make any sense. And like, how do you lace a pixie stick with cyanide without like a pixie stick? It comes in the thing, you rip it open, and you like dump it in your mouth. But like, were these like reattached pixie sticks like super suspect?
I don't know. I mean, in my mind, I think you could, like, not a pixie stick, but a candy bar. You could like keep a candy bar wrapped and be injecting them with stuff, I would say, if like that's the way you're going to do it. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I was obviously like
weirdo.
But
yeah, love those.
Yeah,
urban
that really
myths.
like was I know, I love the Halloween urban legends. Always spooked me out. I remember we did get apples that one year. Remember, we've told the story before.
famous
The
story,
weird guy who had all his lights on, and we go up to the door, and he was like this pretty big house, and he clearly was like stoned or drunk or something like that. He's like, "Oh, it's Halloween." Like, yeah, well, I don't have anything. I got some apples. And my dad was like, forget it. Or did we get
we
the
took
apples?
them because we felt bad. But Dad was like, who the hell leaves their lights on Halloween? You know, like, and Dad was so mad about it. But, yeah.
But we didn't eat those apples, did we? Because they
No.
might have had razor blades in them.
No, hell no. We don't know. It's in the trash, right in the garbage.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember this people on our road that gave us the Drake's coffee cake. Remember, I probably have mentioned this before, but that was like a bummer because they, I don't mind a Drake's coffee cake, love those, but unfortunately they got stuck to the bottom of the bag and then all the other candy on top of that, and then by the end of the night, those Drake's coffee cakes were crumbs.
Yep,
it was
dead.
coffee crumbs.
Crumbs.
So you chuck those.
Crumbs.
Trying to remember of like any other weird stuff we got.
I mean, you get the occasional, like, random, like, I don't even know what they're called, but they're like these round things. They're not chiclets or anything. They're just like these round balls that are like stacked on one another in like a single line. And there's like mini versions of those. There'd be like the off-brand Tootsie Rolls that were like blue. I don't think they were real Tootsie Rolls. I think they were like a different company. I don't know. Yeah. The classic Necco wafers that nobody liked. Maybe you would get a licorice thing, but hopefully not. And like, really can't go wrong with a peanut butter cup. One time, we went to a lady's house and like she didn't get any kids, so she just like dumped the whole bag of peanut butter cups in our trick or treat bag. And I was like, best day ever. Man, had a great Halloween that year. But yeah, Halloween, good times. Can't wait to go trick or treating with Sweetie Jr.
Halloween. This is Halloween. Yeah. This is a cool spin on it because what is most Halloween movies about is like Halloween night, about trick or treating, about ghosts coming to our world, or ghosts or monsters or whatever. And this was kind of a cool twist in the sense that like there was a little bit of Halloween night going on, but it was mostly like them away for the night in this like Halloweentown where obviously like it's Halloween all the time there. So almost reminded me like of Babes in Toyland too, like almost like that kind of like a feeling where there's all these little characters and a little separate drama going on in
and
that
you're
world.
like, where are you from? Yeah, what character are you? Question mark.
Yeah.
Milkman. And definitely like some 90s stuff. And the main thing, again, like the production value 90s, a lot of neon and like day glow they call it. Which is very 90s. And then Marnie calls the Luke kid a twerp, which is my favorite insult that like I always say I want to bring back and I always forget to do that. So that's my goal this month, is to use that at least once a week if I can.
She had some real zingers.
Yeah, she was sassy. Loved it. What else? Anything else? Spells. I feel like, again, they're like very wishy-washy with the spells. Like at the end, they're joining the hands, but before they all join hands, the mom and the grandma are saying like an actual spell to like get rid of this demon force. And then when the kids join, they just hum instead. And it's like, okay, so do you need the spell or do you not need the spell? Like, you just need to think about it?
The witch stuff was like pretty light, and they were mostly just concerned about making it like clever, tongue-in-cheek little witchisms. Because, like, I feel like the spell stuff was weak. In general, their powers were weak. The broom thing was, like, okay.
Sometimes it was, like, make up a spell. That's, like, that rhymes and that works. And then it's, like...
Yeah, and, like, the outfits were just, like, okay in terms of, like... I mean, they're supposed to be, like, whimsical witches. Like, there was no, like, darkness to them at all.
Well, those ones on the bus were kind of... The witches on the bus were kind of scary, but... Yeah. I don't know what their sitch was, but, I
mean, it seemed to me that there is potentially this dark... witch set, which is like the warlock guy did belong to, or did kind of go over to that dark side. So it seems to me that there is that, but Halloweentown is all happy go lucky. There's no like dark stuff.
I said, no one seemed to be on his side. So I don't know, like he was just gonna have to take over everyone and then take over the world. I don't know. Anyways, I think the second one is pretty good. I'd recommend it if you're interested. There's like this really scary part where the mom is wearing this mask at a dance, and then like something happens, and all the people wearing masks, like they turn into like the creature that they're pretending to be, and she's like this horrifying, I don't even know, like goblin or something. That always sticks out. But yeah, it's pretty good sequel. But never saw the other ones, but like I kind of like the second one. Maybe I'll watch it tonight. I don't know. But yeah, good times. So yeah, Halloween. So what are we covering next? What can we give them a little preview for next movie?
Okay, next up we're doing Erie, Indiana. This is a series that was on only ran one season, but there's a good like 18 episodes per season. I don't remember what channel it was on, but
I think it was Disney.
it was basically like, was it Disney?
I thought so. Maybe not.
Maybe. How I saw it as, this was the same time as X-Files. So I feel like some network exec was like, let's do X-Files for kids. And they did this show about all like creepy goings on, but all around this one town called Erie, Indiana. And it stars Omri Katz as our boy from Hocus Pocus there, as the main guy, Marshall, and then his like little ginger buddy there. And they just like all these little like funky things happen, and it's really creepy. So we watched that. I don't think I watched the whole season by any means, and I'm hoping some more will come back to me. But this Foreverware episode about Tupperware and people getting put in Tupperware, oh man, still think about it like on the reg. So good.
Totally.
So we'll be covering that one. So hope some people remember that one, have seen that one. Definitely another like I think it was like early 90s. I want to say like 92-ish or something.
Yeah.
95-ish maybe.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. But until then, get your spook on.
Woo woo. All right. Happy Halloween from your sweeties. You can find us on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you as always for listening. Bye.
Bye.